The coppery tang of blood still clung to the morning air when Eddard Stark guided his destrier through the churned mud that rimmed the Trident. Duslick reeds bowed at his passing, brushing against his greaves like beseeching hands. Around him, the river meadow lay ruined, trampled standards, shattered pikes, and the cooling corpses of men who, only an hour past, had roared Robert Baratheon's name to the heavens. Now the Baratheon stag hung limp upon scarlet banners, slicked with its owner's life. Robert's death had been mercifully swift. The iron-shod head of Prince Rhaegar's warhammer, wrenched from a dead man's grasp, had crushed the rebel lord's breastplate, caving flesh and bone with a single thunderous strike. No singer would ever know which loyalist struck the blow. The bodies lay 3 deep in that eddying knot of violence, dyed the color of the Trident's split waters. Yet the hammer itself had felt like a cruel jest, for Robert's own weapon had been a hammer too, and Eddard could not shake the image of one brother of the North wielding another brother's doom. He reined in beside a fallen willow, whose roots drank silently of the red tide lapping its trunk. Dawn's pale light glimmered upon Ned's mail, but he felt none of its warmth. His gauntleted hands ached from the tightness of his grip. His lungs burned with each breath, thick with the stench of iron and churned earth. All was still save for the fitful moans of the dying and the cawing chorus of carrion crows gathering upon the far bank. The war was not over, and yet victory lay as cold and hollow as the field they had won. Lord Stark. A hoarse voice rasped at his back. Ned turned to see Sir John Connington, red hair matted with sweat and gore, his left pauldron bent inward where a mace had struck. His eyes, though rimmed with fatigue, held a soldier's resolve and sorrow. I left Lord Hoster's maesters tending Lord Baratheon where he fell. They tried every balm, every poultice. He swallowed. It was done the moment the hammer landed. His ribs, it looked as though a fruit crushed beneath a boot. Ned inclined his head in silent thanks. Words felt brittle things in his mouth. He dismounted and planted his mucky-spattered boots upon the ground that had drunk so much blood. Across the rippling shallows, he spied fragments of Prince Rhaegar's black armor, rubies stripped from breastplate scattered like drops of sunset on wet stones. The river whispered around them, a soft shush as though the world sought to hush their mourning. Robert dead, he thought, dazed. Robert who laughed too loud, drank too deep, loved too fiercely. Robert who promised Ned they would ride together to rescue Lyanna, who swore to crumble the Red Keep stone by stone until she was safe. Robert, who had been a mountain beneath whose shadow Ned could rest his honor. That mountain lay toppled now, and Ned felt the vastness of the sky like cold rain on his brow. "My lord," Connington said, "what banners shall we rally now?" The men, they looked to Storm's End's colors, but without Robert. Without Robert, Ned echoed, forcing his throat to work. They will look to his kin, to Lord Stannis or Lord Renly in time. But Stannis is at Storm's End, bottled up by Lord Mace. And the Tyrell host rings the walls from land and sea. Connington's shoulders sagged. They will not break for our word alone. Storm's End might hold, but we are half a realm away, Ned finished. Too far to reach Stannis before Tyrell or Redwyne could move against us. And Renly is but a boy. Connington's voice lowered. If the Baratheon antlers are to lead, they'll need a hand to hold the reins. Ned studied the field. In the rising sun he saw pockets of men in tattered surcoats, some stag, some trout, some flayed man, others crowned sun or twin tower. They loitered near heaps of dead, unsure what to do, as though the death of their lord had stolen their tongues along with their courage. Above them, ragged pennons stirred in the delicate breeze like half-remembered vows. He had no taste for crowns, nor for the roar of the small folk chanting his name. But someone must stand in Robert's stead. Someone must hold the rebels together before they scattered like leaves on the wind. If Robert's cause died here, Lyanna would remain a prisoner in the south, if she still lived at all, and the mad king, emboldened, would roast them each in turn. The north was far, but dragon fire flew swifter than ravens. "Have the horns sounded," Ned said. "Gather every captain, Tully, Aaron, Dustin, the Mallisters, the Frey levies, the Northmen. Tell them we speak at midday on the western ridge, where Robert's standard fell. They must hear whose war this is now." Connington bowed. relief etching his brow. "As you command, my lord." As the knight strode off, Ned set a hand upon the willow's rough bark. The tree's leaves quivered, bright and green against the red soil, and for a moment he wished to be back in the godswood of Winterfell, where the heart tree listened without judgment, and the wind smelled of snow. But Winterfell lay leagues and wars away. Here, only the river gods listened, and their song was the gurgle of water around bodies. Emotion drew his gaze. Sir Brynden Tully, armor dented and helm tucked beneath his arm, was trudging across the carrion-littered grass. The blackfish's hair, normally neat, hung soaked and lank against his brow, but his eyes were keen as ever. "Ned." The name emerged, tired but steady. "I've sent riders to every tent encampment. Your summons will reach the banners." "Thank you, uncle." Brynden's mouth twisted at the word. "Not by law nor marriage, yet it sits easy on your tongue. Hoster will be pleased you claim us so readily." His smile did not reach his eyes. "Your own kin may need such claims before this is done." Ned closed his eyes. He pictured Lyanna, laughing as she bested Benjen with a wooden sword beneath Winterfell's towers. He pictured Lyanna, pale and fevered, in some Southron tower, if the gods were cruel. His hand twitched toward the sword at his hip. "Do you know aught of Lyanna?" Brynden's breath steamed, though dawn warmed around them. "Our scouts heard whispers. Ahagar's children evacuated from Dragonstone to King's Landing in haste. But Lyanna, no certainty. Some say she rides with the Kingsguard in the west. Others that Aerys keeps her in the Red Keep to bait you Northmen into rashness. None can say. None can set." Ned ground his teeth. Rhaegar dead, Robert dead. Yet the princess still lost, and the Mad King still crouched upon his molten throne, clutching wildfire like a jealous lover. "We will find her. But first we must hold the realm together long enough to have a realm to return her to." He drew a deep breath. "Will House Tully stand behind me, if I speak for the cause?" Brynden gave a curt nod. "My brother's banners follow his son-in-law, as they followed his son-in-law's friend. Edmure may be lord in name, but Hoster's will guides the Trident. He chose Catelyn for your friend Robert. He will not balk at turning that choice to you if need demands. And the Riverlords owe you this day's victory as much as any man alive." Ned looked again across the river. Rubies winked in the sun, as though each drop of Prince's blood were a shard of dawnlight. How many promises had bled out with them? He thought of Benjen, roaming the cavalry lines with wide-eyed fervor, of old Lord Rickard burned alive, of Brandon's strangled gasps. He thought of the cold crypt beneath Winterfell where voices of the dead whispered of broken oaths. The wind shifted, bearing a scent of smoke on its edge. King's Landing, he thought, or the pyres we will build here. Tywin Lannister had yet to declare, but men spoke of his armies mustering in the west, silent as a lion that chooses when to pounce. With Robert fallen, would the Lion of Casterly Rock extend a paw in friendship to the Mad King, or strike for his own gain? Either would be ruinous. At midday Ned stood upon a low rise overlooking the battlefield. Robert's banner lay folded at his feet, the golden crown of stag's antlers shining faintly beneath a glaze of blood. Hundreds gathered below, lords armored and pricked, foot soldiers leaning on spears, hedge knights cradling broken shields. They came in knots by color: crimson trout, gray direwolf, blue falcon, flayed man, the mermen of White Harbor. Some bore makeshift litters bearing the wounded, others dragged wagons of bundled arrows. Yet each set his gaze upon the Northman in wolf's head cloak, for he alone still seemed unbowed by grief. Ned raised his voice, his words carried by a hush, so sudden it felt preordained. Robert Baratheon died with his face to his foe, and the cry of "Aerys shall burn on his lips." He died free of chains the Mad King laid on our fathers. He died to set right what dragonfire destroyed in our hearts. Never malater. A murmur pulsed through the crowd, acknowledgement, pain, agreement. Ned forced himself onward. Yet Robert's dream does not die here. I see his hope in every man who still stands upon this honest earth. I see it in the sons of the Reach who shrugged off their liege lords to fight beside us, in the daughters of the North who wove us banners, in the small folk who fed us when they had no bread to spare. I see it in the vows whispered by dying men who asked me to carry word home that they fell true. His voice thickened, he swallowed the ache. If we falter now, this field will mean naught but grief. The Mad King will rule again by terror. The pyres will rise higher. Targaryen knights will hunt our kin from old stones to last hearth. We must not let Robert's fire gutter here. A breeze lifted the banners behind him, and the sea of soldiers leaned forward unconsciously, as if drawn by the promise of a hearth's warmth in winter. House Baratheon has lost its lord, but not its cause. Until Lord Stannis can take the field, or young Lord Renly claim his brother's antlers, I will hold the line Robert carved with his life. Not for crowns or chambers in the Red Keep, but for justice. For Lyanna Stark, stolen from her family. For Elbert Arryn, murdered without trial. For every man who burned in Summerhall, and every wife who wept when Lord Cassana leapt from the walls, rather than taste the dragon's whim. Benasunto. He paused, letting their eyes meet his. Brandon's friends from the Vale, Massey's silent defections, the sullen Ironborn Sellswords seeking plunder. I am Eddard Stark of Winterfell. No man crowned me, and no man need kneel. But if you would see the realm free of the Mad King's yoke, stand with me now. Stand and swear not to lay down arms until Aerys Targaryen faces judgment, and until Lady Lyanna is returned to her people, alive and whole. Stand, and in Robert's name we will finish what he began. He lifted ice from its sheath. The great Valyrian blade glimmered a smoky gray in the sun. Slowly, solemnly, he drove its tip into the sodden earth beside the folded stag banner, a silent offering. For a heartbeat, stillness. Then Sir Mark Piper thrust his sword overhead. For Robert, he cried. For the North. Others joined. Mallister trumpets sounded. Manderly spears thudded upon shields. Sir Howland Reed raised his weirwood shaft and called, "Ice and blood!" The roar swept outward like a storm tide, carrying names. Lyanna, Arryn, Stark, Robert, until the ridge seemed to quake beneath them. Ned felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders, heavier than mail. Yet inside, a spark sputtered. Resolve, not passion. Passion might burn fast and bright. Resolve smoldered slow, warming through winter nights. He looked to the horizon beyond the river, where a haze of dust marked Tywin's approach. Or so rumor claimed. Fire might fall from the sky before the lion struck, but winter had taught the Starks to bank their flames and wait. That evening council tents sprang like mushrooms amid the trampled sedge. Ned convened his captains in Robert's pavilion, where the late lord's hammered breastplate lay split upon a trestle table, mute testament to mortality. Torches flickered along canvas walls, casting sway shadows upon faces carved by fatigue. Lord John Arryn sat straight back despite the hitch in his breath that came from an old wound. Hoster Tully, gray-bearded and eagle-eyed, leaned on a cane. His gout pained him, yet his mind remained sharp as a harpoon. Brandon's betrothed, Lady Catelyn, remained outside tending the wounded, though her presence lingered in hearts and glances. Ned stood at the table's head. "We must reckon Tywin Lannister," he began without preamble. Lord Arryn, hair snowy as the Vale's peaks, nodded. "Our scouts confirm Lannister banners ride east from the Golden Tooth, 12,000 foot, near 5,000 horse at least. Kevin commands the van. Tywin rides with the main host. King's Landing garrison numbers perhaps 10,000, Hoster added. But they will not sally unless Lannister claws close. Whatever King Aerys intends. Wildfire." Sir Lyn Corbray interjected, finger drumming his sword pommel. "Connington's deserters swear the alchemist skilled cooks day and night." John Arryn's pale gaze settled on Ned. "If Tywin means to join King Aerys, we could find ourselves pinned between lion and dragon. And if he means to strike Aerys himself?" asked Edmure Tully, brow creased with uncertainty. "The Lannisters are proud. They stood aloof these 2 years. Mayhap Tywin sees chance to claim the crown." Hoster gave a dry laugh. "Kings are forged of opportunity, lad. But Tywin's pride cuts both ways. He will not bend knee to rebels, or to a madman who kept him spurned these 15 years. Ned spread a map across the trestle. Here is the King's Road where Tywin marches. If he rides for King's Landing, he must pass the Hayford fields. We could meet him there, but our host is bloodied. Half our foot cannot march more than leagues a day. We hold the crossing, Jon countered, finger tracing from the Trident toward Harrenhal. Fortify the fords, force Tywin south towards Harroway. Slow him. Meanwhile, we send a swift detachment south to seek the Stormlands. If Lord Stannis breaks the siege at Storm's End, even a small relief column could bolster us. Ned considered. But Mace Tyrell's fleets choke the narrow sea. Stannis may be starved before relief. And if Tywin veers north instead, he could carve through the Riverlands, burning from Pink Maiden to Riverrun. Damn sorry. Edmure's face paled at that. We cannot leave our lands unguarded. Which is why we need Lord Tully's levies posted along the Red Fork, Ned said. Guard the crossings at Fair Market and Lord Harroway's town. The Northmen and Vale Knights will march with me toward Harrenhal. If Tywin rides on the capital, we pursue. If he turns north, we stand between him and Riverrun. Jon Arryn smiled ruefully. A bold chase on spent horses, Ned. Bold is all we have left, Ned replied. If we sit, Tywin shapes the game. If we hunt, at least we choose the ground. Sir Howland Reed's quiet voice rose from the shadows. And the princess? Lyanna must be found, lest our hearts falter in this work. Ned's jaw tightened. Sir Howland, you will ride with me. Your Crannog trackers have eyes none can escape. We will find her trail in one castle or another. He forced himself to breathe. Alive by the old god's grace. Silence fell, thick as the canvas above. Then Hoster rapped his cane. So be it. Riverrun will hold. The Tully garrisons shall guard the forks. Edmure, bid Sir Carol lead the levies east of the Tumblestone. Our fields will not burn while fish yet swim. None. The young heir straightened, relief and duty mingling. It will be done, father. Ned nodded. We strike tents at first light. Send ravens to Lady Dustin at Baratheon, to Lord Manderley at White Harbor. Ask for grain ships up the Trident. Tell them Robert is dead, but his will lives. They dispersed one by one, leaving Ned amid guttering torches. He lingered by Robert's sundered breastplate. Touching its jagged edge, he pictured the man who had filled it. Bellowing laughter, sweat flying, blue eyes alight with purpose. He placed his palm flat, feeling the cold metal. I will finish it, my friend, he whispered. I will bring Lyanna home. Outside, dusk bled into night. The campfires of 10,000 flickered upon the meadow. Somewhere a piper played a plaintive tune. The burning of Summerhall, perhaps. Ned stepped into the chill and let the music wash over him. The wind shifted from east to west, bringing a scent of rain. He thought of Catelyn, somewhere in the healer's tent, binding wounds she could scarcely bear to look upon. He thought of Tywin Lannister's golden lions glinting against storm clouds. And he thought of the Mad King, alone in his twisted castle of memory, whispering to green jars of wildfire that hissed and bubbled like unquiet ghosts. 5 hours, Ned Stark told himself. 5 days, 5 years, however long it took, he would not falter. He was the shield Robert no longer could be, the sword Lyanna had no time to wield, the stone upon which the North would stand. Winter forged hard things, and winter was not done with the realm. Dawn broke crimson and gold, streaking the sky like tempests of fire. Lines of riders filed from camp, the clatter of hooves muffled by sodden turf. The direwolf of Stark flew beside the falcon of Arryn, twin guardians against encroaching dark. Ned rode at their head, ice across his knees, the handles leather familiar against calloused skin. They passed the willow where Robert fell. Someone had stripped its branches and woven a rough cairn of spears about the place, topped by antlers hacked from the half-shattered helm. Wildflowers lay scattered, pink and white daisies, baby's breath. Ned dipped his head and did not slow. There were no words left the tree had not already heard. Past the ford the ground rose in gentle undulations toward Harrenhal's blasted silhouette. The castle's melted towers loomed, a grim sentinel of ancient dragon's wrath. As they rode, a hush settled upon the company. Men glanced at the skeletal spires and crossed themselves, or whispered prayers to gods old and new. Toward midday, a dust plume marred the horizon. Swift riders, lances tipped with a lion's head standard. Ned signaled halt. Archers knocked. The plume resolved into three, not host but outrider. They bore a white banner above the lion, Parley. Ned spurred ahead with his guard, leaving archers string-taut behind him. The envoys drew close. Lordlings by their plumage, though travel-worn. The foremost removed his helm, revealing a sharp young face framed by gilt hair. Sir Jaime Lannister, barely a man grown yet already storied. His green eyes held insolent amusement, even in exhaustion. "Lord Eddard Stark," Jaime called, reining to a halt a spear's length away. "I bear terms from Lord Tywin. He rides to King's Landing, not against you, and desires passage unmolested." "No. And what does the lion offer in return?" Ned asked, voice cool. "Perhaps peace in our time." Jaime's smile cut like glass. "Lord Tywin seeks only to protect his kin within the city. His allegiance remains undecided. Grant him the road and he swears no quarrel with your banners." Ned studied the young knight. "And if I refuse?" Jaime's shoulders lifted in a careless half a shrug. "The lion has claws, Lord Stark. Claws enough for wolves and trout alike. But claws prefer not to dull themselves needlessly." "Demdeseko." A faint murmur. Men behind Ned bristled. Yet he kept his gaze steady. "Tell Lord Tywin I will not hinder peaceful passage. But if he raises sword in King's Landing, he makes himself my foe as well as Aerys's. And the realm will remember who unsheathed first." Jaime inclined his head, half mocking, half respectful. "I shall carry your sentiments, my lord, and perhaps remind my father of the North's resolve." He wheeled his destrier, and the trio sped back across the rolling plain, banners snapping. Jon Arryn rode up. "Tywin marches for the city indeed. Gods help whoever holds its gates." "Varys will have warned Aerys by now," Ned said, adjusting his cloak. "The Mad King will think Tywin a savior or a usurper, depending on his mood by nightfall." "Either way," Jon muttered, glancing south, "wildfire will light the sky." In the late daylight their host made camp upon a low hill south of Saltpans. Wary eyes watched the distant columns of Tywin's army, a separate river of steel flowing east. Dusk settled. Ned stood atop the hill, surveying campfires like constellations fallen to earth. Behind him, Ghost Hill rose pale and pitted, old barrows of men whose names even maesters forgot. Ser Howland joined him, night breeze tugging the reeds tufted to his mail. Scouts report Tywin's outriders skirmished with the King's Road's patrol near Wendwater Bridge. "Two heads now rot upon pikes, but whose I know not. Soon the dragon and lion will lock jaws," Ned murmured. "We must be ready to strike the throat while they struggle. A dangerous hunt. The only one left us." He exhaled. "I will ride ahead with a small company at dawn. Howland yourself, perhaps the Blackfish. We slip past Tywin's rear, follow the Poet's Road south. If Lyanna is in King's Landing, we will find her before the city erupts. If not, you break her from Dorne or Dragonstone yourself," Howland finished. Ned gave a thin smile. "My vows were forged in winter. Steel is steel." "What of the host?" Howland asked. "Jon will command. He knows siegecraft and has the Aerys engineers. If Aerys opens the gates to Lannisters, Jon must decide. Either join the assault or retreat to Riverrun." Ned rubbed weary eyes. "And gods forgive us if wildfire defends the walls." A silence deep and solemn settled between them, broken only by distant thunder. No hooves. A rider tore up the hill, clay spattering beneath hard gallop. He reined before Ned, trembling. "Lord Stark." Harbor Master's wharf at Saltpans. Ships sighted. Crowned stag flown inverted. One of Lord Renly's squires found it adrift. A Raven message cylinder inside. "It bears King's Landing seal." Ned's heart hammered. He snapped the wax open. unfurled the damp parchment beneath torchlight. The words leapt forth in shaky hand. King's Landing beseeches aid. Tywin at gates, Queen and Prince in tower. Wildfire stores primed beneath city. Mad King raves, burn them all. King's guard divided. Any loyal lord hurry south before doom. Ned felt cold wind cut through cloak and marrow alike. He folded the note, eyes rising to the south where a faint orange smudge stained horizon. The reflection of thousands of torches, or the first kiss of flames upon oil. Ready the horses, he ordered. We ride within the hour. Howland hesitated. What of the army? Jon marches at dawn as planned. But I go now. There is no time left to measure. Morni. Below. Horns sounded. Men scrambled. Ned laid a hand upon ice. Somewhere in King's Landing, stone barrels of wildfire slept beneath streets, ready to dream of dragons. Somewhere in a locked room, Lyanna Stark may lie fevered and alone. And somewhere upon the battlements, Tywin Lannister's cold eyes judged risk and reward. The night would decide all. Ned mounted, cloak whipping behind him. The first drops of rain pattered the earth, hissing upon torch flames. Lightning forked, illuminating Harrenhal's ruins in stark white for a heartbeat. Then the storm and the wolf rode south. Rain sheeted across the King's Road, sleeting sideways beneath gusts that howled like wolves denied entry at a gate. The night swallowed everything beyond the lanterns slung from Ned's saddle horn, pools of murky light that quivered on storm-soaked cobbles, chased by the hammering hooves of 20 riders keeping his desperate pace. Ice's pommel thumped against his thigh with every stride, a cold pulse tethering him to purpose. His cloak clung heavy and sodden. Water dripped from his hair into his eyes, until the world blurred into streaks of torch gold and pitch. Yet he pressed on, teeth bared to the chill. For in the distance, where the road dipped toward Blackwater Bay, a dull orange glow simmered against low clouds, as though dawn had come far too early. Howland Reed ranged beside him, slight in the saddle but tireless, the storm seeming almost to bend around him. On Ned's other flank the Blackfish rode hunched, his gray hair whipped to rat tails, eyes narrowed to slits against the lash of wind. Behind them rattled a small covered wagon, wheels squelching through mire, its canvas smock hiding barrels of Riverrun pitch, gifts for bribery or conflagration should stealth fail. Brynden had insisted. Every rebel trick must travel with them tonight, for they rode into a snare woven by lion and dragon alike. The road buckled past the burned village of Southhorn. Charred roof beams jutted against lightning white sky like grasping fingers. Smoke still rose from soaked foundations, mingling with rain in steamy wisps. Ned slowed and peered into the wreckage, for tatters of banners, for bones too small, for proof of Tywin's terror, but saw only puddles reflecting broken rafters. War had already outpaced him. At last the ground sloped toward a stunted copse of oaks. Through its skeletal branches flickered watchfires. Bright knots perched along the distant city walls, mirrored by broader, steadier blazes sprawled west and south. Tywin's encampments. The Lion of Casterly Rock had drawn a burning circle around King's Landing. Ned drew rein beneath the oaks, water sluicing from his helm's noseguard. His small company gathered in panting silence. Ahead, the brick sprawl of the city hunched under gloom, hulking like a half-drowned beast. Walls glistening, towers clawing at clouds, domes glimmering orange where lanterns winked within. Beyond, the Blackwater coursed in swollen darkness. No moon to silver its skin tonight, only faint reflections of siege fires edging its rippling expanse. The gates will be barred. Brynden rasped over the patter of drops on steel. Even if the gold cloaks haven't chosen a side, no guard captain throws portals wide when two armies circle. We won't ask, Ned answered. We find another path. The Blackfish grunted approval. Howland clucked his mount forward, nose lifted, as though scenting the hidden threads of water under stone. The old drain, he murmured. The outlet. The Targaryens widened after the Fourth Dornish War. Big enough for a barge in summer, or so the chronicles say. Silted now, but my sappers could clear a crawl space. We are sappers enough, Ned said, and wheeled to address the riders behind. Ben Hornwood, Jory Castle. Merrick Mallister, a smattering of sworn swords who had followed their lord into every folly. Faces mud-spattered but eyes bright. They listened as rain drummed their helms. Tie the horses here, among the trunks. Douse every lantern. Then offload rope, grapnels, pitch, quietly as cats. We move on foot. No man balk. They had watched Robert die. They understood the cost of hesitation. Within minutes reins were knotted, hooves wrapped in burlap to stifle noise, and the company crept downslope toward the sluggish shimmer of the Blackwater's back channel. Wind carried the tang of brine and char. From the camps western of the city came faint booms. Rams testing gates or trebuchets rebounding. Tywin had begun. Reed guided them along the bank until a low arch emerged, brickwork black with mildew, half submerged beneath river swell. Rust-eaten grates once barred the culvert. Now they were pried askew, chains dangling like drowned serpents. Two bodies bobbed in the eddies, throats purpled, gold cloaks, flayed by crossbow bolts. Ned knelt, fingers brushing one pale cheek. Still warm. Another party had slipped this way tonight. The tunnel gaped, breathing a fetid stench of rotten rushes and age-old night soil. Ned signaled two men forward. They slid inside, thigh-deep in water, torches hooded to thin slits. Minutes crawled. An owl shrieked overhead. Distant thunder rolled. Then a low whistle drifted from the dark. Clear. One by one they vanished under the arch. Ned followed last, ice strapped across his back, the blackfish's hand steadying him where footing turned slick. Inside, the culvert widened into a vaulted throat. Water lapped mid-calf, swirling around ankles with unsettling warmth. The city's castings, forever flushed. Reed's torches barely scratched the gloom. Ceilings wept, rats chattered. Overhead, through hairline fractures came muffled reverberations. Bells tolling, screams swallowed by stone, the thud of siege engines landing somewhere far above. They trudged in sodden silence, skirting whirlpools where sudden drops lurked. Branching passages yawned left and right. A labyrinth fit for dragons' secrets. Reed paused at each junction, tasting moss, gauging depth. Twice he backtracked, head shaking. Too near dungeons, listen, chains. Or, this runs beneath the alchemist's guild, smell the brimstone. Finally, he pointed to a narrower conduit ascending at a gentle pitch. This climbs toward Maegor's Holdfast. The Princess Tower lies on its east face, if the red keeps plans hold truth. They pressed on, hearts hammering. The gradient left water behind, boots squelched on damp brick. Ned's breath fogged, Reed's torch glow, twisting into wraith shapes that fled into dark. He saw again Robert's sundered breastplate, the smashed antlers, Lyanna's smile when she raced her horse across Wintertown's snow. Each memory kindled fresh resolve, stiffening his spine as they emerged into a junction where torchlight reached a corroded iron ladder climbing to a wooden hatch. Soot rimmed its edges from some ancient flame. Brynden frowned up the shaft. That lid sits beneath the stable's yard if maps still match. Stables mean grooms, but not guards, Ned said. We try. Mallister slung his crossbow. Scaled first, oiled boots squeaking. At the hatch he pressed an ear, then levered with gloved hands. Wood grated. A trickle of straw drifted, along with the sharper stink of horse and hay damp with urine. No voices. Mallister eased through, one by one they followed, emerging into stacked bales that walled an empty corner. Beyond, lanterns swung over rows of stalls, horses stamped, restless at the din echoing through the keep. Ned signaled two to stay and hold the hatch. The rest glided among shadows, blades unsheathed. Rain battered the tiled roof overhead like a drumline urging haste. From beyond stable doors came rising tumult. Shouts, clash of steel, the crackle of flame. Tywin's breach? Or riots? The city unraveled faster than planned. They slid into a courtyard half-lit by torches. A groom lay sprawled, skull split, his lantern guttered in a widening slick of rain-dulled blood. Across the yard an archway opened into the Red Keep's inner corridors, but flames flickered within, a tapestry ablaze just inside, heat punching the air with greasy smoke. Ned crouched. We split. Taut, Brynden, take Jory and 3 men. Find the Hand's Tower. Secure Grand Maester Pycelle if alive. He may know Lyanna's location. Howland with me. Lyanna first. Any meeting place? The stable loft, Brynden said. At dawn or disaster? Whichever comes first. They clasped wrists, then parted. Ned's half-dozen slipped through the arch opposite the burning tapestry, boots squelching along marble halls littered with overturned benches and shards of colored glass. Here the chaos vibrated through every stone, servants shrieking, metal ringing, high-born ladies stumbling through smoke-filled passages, while torchbearers dragged them toward cellars. Some recognized Ned's wolf's head cloak and flinched as though winter itself had stalked the corridor. Others darted past without seeing, eyes clouded by terror. On marble stairs, a column of gold cloaks wrestled with crimson liveried guards. Lannister men, their lions bright even in soot. The 2 mobs grappled for a silver-bound chest, perhaps the treasury's smaller jewels. Blades flashed. A man screamed as fingers flew. Ned skirted round a side scaffold, unseen in the frenzy, only to halt at a bay window alcove where he glimpsed the courtyard below. Hell had opened its maw. Tywin's vanguard surged through a sundered gate, red cloaks swirling. Archers on sea-gill ladders fired into ramparts. Streets beyond teemed with rioters looting storehouses. Over it all the great sept gleamed, a candle of white stone, suddenly flaring as tongues of flame licked its base. The sept was burning. Thunder rattled panes, not skyborn, but an inner roar that shook marrow. Howland flinched. Wildfire, he breathed. Below the Guildhall, perhaps, one cache loosed. Ned's stomach nodded. Then we moved faster. They ascended narrow servants' stairs spiraling toward Azure Court. Barrister tapestries choked the landings. Sickly light pulsed through slits in shutterboards. Twice they ducked mutinous scullions dragging sacks of pantry spoils. Once they crossed bodies of 2 white-cloaked Kingsguard, Sir Jonathor Derry and Sir Lewin Martell, throats gaping. Derry still clutched blade, knuckles white even in death. Farther up, the corridor bent toward a columned veranda that overlooked Maegor's courtyard. Rain had slackened to a mist, cloaking the air. There, beneath flickering braziers, Jaime Lannister strode alone. Golden hair plastered to cheeks, armor streaked green, wildfire splatter. In one gauntlet he held a long sword crusted with soot. In the other, a key ring bigger than his fist. He paced as if a caged cat, head turning toward the Tower of the Hand, then back at the Red Keep's throne room entrance beyond the courtyard arch. Ned hissed for his men to stay. He stepped into the veranda's light. Sir Jaime. Jaime spun, sword up. Recognition flickered. Lord Stark. Wolves roam odd paths tonight. His voice trembled, not with fear, but something rawer, as if each word scraped bone. I hunt my sister, Ned said evenly. Lyanna. Jaime's laughter shattered on the marble. And here I thought you stormed the castle for crowns and scorch marks. Your sister. Well, she's not here. Ned advanced astride. Do not trifle with me. I do not. Jaime wiped rain from his brow with the back of a gauntlet. Eyes too wide, too bright. I saw the king's men escort a girl, dark hair, pale as milk, carried her from the maiden vault 2 nights past. They took her to the White Sword Tower, but this evening, tower's empty. His gaze twitched to the throne room arch as if seeing ghosts. What happened, Jaime? What always happens. A broken smile. Eris ordered wildfire beneath the city. He meant to burn every man, woman, and babe rather than yield. His throat worked. Rain traced silver tracks down soot-dusted cheeks. I stopped him. Steel rasped faintly. Ned realized Jaime's blade dripped only water, no blood. It had already been wiped clean. Yet in Jaime's eyes lay the stain of something no water could scour. You slew your king. I slew my king, Jaime whispered. And his pyromancer. And the guard who tried to bar the door. He shook his head. Call me Oathbreaker. Write it in every book. But the wildfire, one spark and the city becomes Summerhall's twin. Ned studied him. heartbeat steady despite ears roaring. Jaime's words carried terrible sense, yet King's Landing reeked of treason deeper than rebellion. Another time, Ned would confront such sin. Tonight, purpose weighed heavier. "Will you hinder my search?" Jaime barked a laugh. "I've hindered enough. Go. But beware the dragon's shadow still." He tossed the key ring. Ned caught its cold heft. "Third key. They all feel the same, but trust me. White Sword Tower Vault." Jaime turned away, gaze fixed once more on the archway, as if some thread bound him to the hall beyond. His shoulders sagged, and for a moment, he looked more boy than knight. Ned pocketed the keys and motioned Reed to follow. They skirted columns, descending a servant's stair hidden behind a statue of Queen Visenya. The passage narrowed, turning to rough-cut steps plunging into a damp core. Lanterns flickered on iron hooks, abandoned by fleeing guards. At the foot a wrought door waited. The third key fit. Bolts groaned. The door yawned inward with breath of cold stronghold air. Cells lined the corridor, some barred with wood, others stone niches sealed by iron plates. Reed's torch revealed ragged bedding, bowls crusted with old gruel. Muffled coughs emerged from deeper gloom. Ned moved cell to cell, calling Lyanna's name in a low rasp. Prisoners stirred, political captives, low thieves, a pock-marked bard who spat curses in Pentashi. Yet none answered as Lyanna would. At the corridor's end, a single wooden door bore the seven-pointed star burned into its surface. The key grated again. Hinges wailed. Ned stepped into a round chamber washed by candlelight. A weirwood cradle lay beside a canopied cot. Children's books slumped on a shelf. Yet dust rimmed every edge, suggesting abandonment, until his torch found the far wall. A pallet of fresh straw, a pitcher of water half full, and on the floor a single winter rose, petals bruised but unwilted. A sob clawed Ned's throat. Lyanna had been here. Days ago, perhaps hours. He knelt, lifting the flower. Its scent, snow, pine sap, pierced the stone chill. Hope warred with dread. Howland crouched. Tracks in the straw, carried not walking. Southwards, toward the dungeons. Howland shook his head. Down through Dragon's Vault, perhaps, or out. The straw's direction leads to the door we passed untried. No. They retraced steps to a side door, barred by iron studs. No key fit, so Mallister wedged a pick beneath and levered until the latch popped. The door swung onto descending stairs spiraling along rock, older than the Red Keep itself. Air grew warm, prickled with scent of resin. At bottom they entered a cavernous hall where massive wrought dragons coiled along columns. Their glass eyes glowed green, mirroring torchlight that flared from braziers shaped as twisting serpents. Wildfire. Huge bronze vats lined the center aisle, each sealed with wax and imprinted with the alchemist's sigil. Apprentices in green robes scurried, lugging ladles, stacking jars. Above them, flanked by torchbearers, stood Rossart, Grand Master of the Guild, his robes singed and face beaded with sweat. Beside him, two white-cloaked knights guarded a litter. Upon it lay Lyanna Stark. Ned's breath left him. Her hair spread around her pallid cheeks, lips parted in fever dream. Chain shackles bound wrists and ankles. Rossart's thin voice cut the echo. "Careful, you fools. One stumble and our glorious bloom will ignite before the king's final command." One knight barked agreement. Sir Boros Blount, features flushed and slack. The other, Sir Oswell Went, turned as Ned's torchlight spilled across the hall. Steel rasped. Went's visor dropped. "Trespass," he growled. Ned stepped forward, ice kissing stone. "I claim my kin. Release her." Rossart blinked, thin brows rising. "Ah, the Wolf Lord, I? You are just in time to witness his grace's vengeance. The girl's blood shall sanctify the pyre." Ned moved as lightning. Ice cleaved the air, shattering Rossart's words, and his skull in a spray of crimson. Before the body fell, Reed loosed an arrow. It pierced Blount's gorget, toppling him. Went met Ned's blade with Valyrian steel of his own, Lady Forlorn. black as night. Sparks burst, clang deafening among bronze dragons. Went was taller, stronger, driven by zeal. Ned countered with grim northern economy. Parry and turn, knee to thigh, elbow to jaw. Went strike drew a crimson line across Ned's bicep. Pain flared hot. Ned pivoted, boot heel grinding on slick floor, and wrenched ice into an upward arc that slammed Went's guard high. He drove forward, shoulder first, sending the Kingsguard sprawling against a vat. Wildfire sloshed inside. Green candle glow slithered down its sides. Mallister darted to Lyanna's litter, slicing bonds as Reed covered. Went roared, surged upright, but his pauldron caught a brass spigot. Pitch gushed, coating cloak and hair. The Kingsguard froze. Every man knew a single spark would turn him to green flame. His eyes flicked from Ned's blade to torchlight. "Surrender," Ned ordered. Went's jaw clenched. For heartbeat upon heartbeat, silence shivered between them, broken only by trickling wildfire. Then Went sighed, released grip on Lady Forlorn. The sword clanged to stone. He backed away, arms raised. Movements ghost slow. Ned exhaled, muscles quivering. Reed extinguished nearby torches, plunging Hall into dimmer glow, but not before tipping one into a bucket of sand. No embers strayed. Lyanna stirred as Mallister lifted her. "Ned," she whispered, lids fluttering. "I am here." He cupped her cheek. Fever burned through skin. "You are safe." A crash reverberated overhead. Stones ripping free, dust raining. The hall trembled. Reed's head jerked upward. The palace collapses. Ned scanned vats lined like dragon eggs in a lair. "We must flee before fire spreads." They retraced steps. Lyanna slung between Ned and Mallister. Reed lingered, a jar of wildfire hefted, then thumped to floor. "Cannot risk pursuit," he muttered. He sliced its wax seal, tipped it carefully until a thin river of green liquid snaked between vats. From his pouch, he drew a pinch of iron filings and flung them into the ooze. Sparks sizzled but did not ignite, yet Reed's motions traced paths converging at the hatch they'd forced. He sprinkled lamp oil on the threshold stones. "Fuse," he explained. "Slow light." They hauled Lyanna up the spiral, crossing threshold as thunder cracked once more. Reed struck flint, touched a scrap of parchment, pressed it to oil. Flame crawled hungrily behind. Up servants' steps, they lurched. Smoke clouded halls now, air roared with distant collapse. In the courtyard outside, rain had ceased but ash fell like black snow. Fires raged along battlements. Half the eastern wall lay breached. Refugees streamed through buckled gates, while Lannister soldiery herded them with spear butts, sorting pillage from capture. Brynden Blackfish charged from the stables loft with Jory and Pycelle in tow, the maester wobbling, hair awry. "The city's lost," Brynden barked. "Tywin owns every quarter save the Red Keep, but with the king dead, guards desert by the score." "The king is dead," Pycelle croaked. "New dead," Jaime said, emerging once more from shadowed arch, sword still in hand. "Tell your Cersei her father's coin bought the realm at last." He staggered slightly, as if balance fought memory. Pycelle began blubbering thanks. Jaime ignored him, eyes locking on Lyanna. "Get her out. Tywin's men will carve paths through any witness. The realm must forget she was ever here." Lightning arced overhead, framing his profile in argent. Ned thought he saw hesitation there, regret, or something like apology. But the night ripped onward. Another tremor shook stone. A roar erupted behind as wildfire fuse reached vats. Green light blazed from windows below, painting faces ghastly. Ned barked orders. Through the postern, North Sallyport, Blackfish, secure horses. He scooped Lyanna, cradling her weight as though she were still the girl of Winterfell's windy courtyard, refusing a shawl on first frost morning. She moaned, lashes fluttering open, eyes gray and wild. "Ice," she whispered. "Cold. So cold." "Soon warmth," he murmured. "Soon home." They raced down an inner stair that opened onto the postern gate, a narrow wicket half hidden behind lichen-clad buttress. No guards manned it now, hinges already sundered. Beyond lay a goat track descending cliffs to the river road. Bryndon's men waited with horses fetched from stables, lean destriers, eyes rolling white at cacophony behind. Ned mounted, Lyanna before him wrapped in Bryndon's cloak. Reed vaulted onto a gelding, crossbow ready. Mallister and Jory flanked Picel astride a swayback mule. Jaime lingered at Arch's edge, silhouetted against Keep's firelit maud dot. "Come," Ned called. "Ride with us. We can still find honor beyond these walls." Jaime's smile twisted. "Honor died tonight, Lord Stark. But go. Take what living you can. And tell your chroniclers the Kingslayer saved half a kingdom, if they care." A final salute with ruined sword. Then he turned back toward the fires, vanishing like a ghost. The company spurred as the first vats erupted. A column of emerald flame lanced skyward, searing clouds into boiling coils. The explosion's shockwave propelled them down the cliff road, horses bucking in terror. Above, towers shattered, raining stone shards down slopes. The night became noon-bright under green sun. Ned felt heat lash his nape, though they rode in shadow. They cleared the last switchback onto the river road, just as Maker's seaward wall burst outward. Tidal wave of green fire devouring quay and ship alike. Black water's surface erupted, steam dwarfing walls, hissing like 1,000 dragons. The blast's thunder chased them northward, echoing through every valley of Ned's bones. Only when distant hills swallowed the city's light did they draw rein in a copse oaks. Horses blew froth. Men slid to knees. Picel sobbed prayers. Reed slumped, face streaked with soot. Bryndon paced, eyes reflecting manic glints. Ned dismounted gently, cradling Lyanna onto a bed of leaf litter. Fever still raged, but her breaths came deeper, less ragged. He brushed damp hair from brow and pressed a kiss there, tasting salt and ash. "Home," she murmured again, and this time the word carried hope. Of the oaks, sky glowed sickly as dawn approached, a seam of crimson and viridian where wildfire's ghosts wrestled sunrise. Ned stared until tears blurred the world, then blinked them clear. He felt each beat of his heart thud like a blacksmith's hammer upon an anvil yet unbroken. Robert was gone. The Mad King roasted in his own forge. Tywin sat astride ruin. But the realm yet breathed, and so long as it breathed, he would guard its breath. "We ride for Riverrun," he told the night, voice raw d'Artois. "We see Lyanna healed. Then, north or south, whatever justice remains, we face it together." Bryndon paused, then nodded. Reed offered a weary grin. Horses shifted, waiting. Ned rose, lifting ice once more, and set his gaze on the smoldering horizon, where a broken crown of towers clawed at the reddening sky. The long road still stretched before them, dangerous as any winter path across thin ice. But the wolf had found his sister, and the dawn still came. That was enough, for now. Oh, Canai. The river mist curled like pale ghosts around the decks of the flat-bottomed barge as it pulled northward along the Red Fork. Dawn's bleary light had not yet pierced the menacing overcast, and every caw of a rook drifting out of the dripping willows seemed a warning that eyes skulked beyond the veil. Ned Stark stood near the prow, cloak plastered to his shoulders with dew, studying the green-brown floodwater licking the timbers. The muffled churn of the long oar beats behind him sounded almost like a giant heart, slow and relentless, propelling them deeper into riverland fog. Each beat marked another heartbeat for Lyanna, he told himself. Each pull carried her farther from wildfire's echo, and closer to hearths that still burned clean. She lay on a pallet beneath a rough awning aft, her fevered dreams steadied only by the maester's tonics and the steady lull of water against hull. Caitlin Tully knelt beside her, fresh bandages ready, red hair escaping its braid to ripple in the chilly breeze. Ned had greeted the Riverlord's daughter with a curt nod when they rejoined Aaron's host 2 nights past. Words failed him then, and they failed him now, seeing her slender hands coax a sip of willow tea past his sister's parched lips. Caitlin's eyes, blue as Riverrun's banners, met his over the pallet, steady, sad, but holding a glint of stubborn hope that he feared to kindle in himself. He had known her only in letters exchanged during the war, formalities arranged through Robert. Yet in those silent dawns, she seemed a comrade older than battles and banners. Beyond the maester's lamp glow, figures hunched beneath patchwork cloaks. Sir Howland Reed, slender as the reeds of his Crannog homeland, his face painted in streaks of ash to dull its pallor. Brynden Blackfish pacing the rail like a restless shadow, boots tapping impatience. Jory Castle exchanging anxious whispers with Merrick Mallister about riders glimpsed on the southern bank at moonrise, scouts by their size and speed. But who's... Across the current, the north bank lay a smear of huddled copses, half-drowned farmsteads, and wind-bent elms. No banners, no fires. Yet Ned's every instinct hissed that somewhere behind those trees rode men who would sooner see Lyanna carried back in chains than breathe free air beyond Tywin Lannister's reach. He turned to Jon Arryn seated on an overturned crate near midships. The Lord of the Eyrie held a weather-spotted parchment, squinting through mist at the ink that had run during their flight from Harrenhal. In the flicker of torch fire, his hair looked almost silver, his face hollower than Ned remembered on the day Robert named him father. He pressed thumb to the parchment seal that still showed the distorted impression of a crowned stag. "Any word from your ravens?" Ned asked quietly. Arryn shook his head. "If they reach Storm's End," Stannis sent no reply. "And the birds I loosed to Winterfell." He paused, glancing up at Ned's drawn expression. "Ravens can be intercepted, or trained to return to new masters." Ned's jaw clenched. "My father's rookery has seen harsh winters, but never silence." He chose not to speak the fear lodged in his chest, that ravens sent north might find only cold hearths and new banners. Arryn folded the parchment with shaking fingers. "Tywin sits a conquered capital, but only half a throne. No body has been displayed. No coronation proclaimed. Varys slipped from the city hours after the flames died. Littlefinger followed before sunrise. A court without spiders and mockingbirds is a court adrift." He glanced aft to the awning. "Everything now hangs upon a girl's breath. Targaryen loyalists claim Rhaegar's heir lives, hidden on Dragonstone. Tywin claims lineage through the Queen's children. But if Lyanna..." "She must live," Ned cut in, "and not merely breathe. I will not trade one cage for another." "Nest." Arryn's eyes softened. "You are as stubborn as Brandon was, though your voice stays low where his thundered." He tucked the parchment away. "I sent ravens to Riverrun ahead of us. Maester Vyman will prepare draughts better than what we can brew on a river. And my wife..." He halted, lips thinning. "Your sister would see a friendly face when she wakes." Ned heard the unspoken plea. Catelyn's presence might heal more than the wound, might bind houses Stark and Tully with new sinew now that Robert no longer stood to claim Catelyn's hand. But betrothals felt as distant as summer songs in that clammy dawn. He merely nodded thanks. A cry drifted from the watchman. "Bridge ahead!" Through the thinning fog, the silhouettes of massive pilings emerged, each carved with entwined trout that gleamed slick in lanternlight. Lord Harroway's bridge, gateway to Tully lands. Soldiers manned a boom across half the channel, pikes leveled, shields painted in rust-red trout on blue. Relief washed through Ned when a trumpet call sounded and the pikes angled upward, clearing passage. A torch was waved in greeting, bright against the gray. The boom swung aside with creak of damp timber. They slipped beneath the arch, the toll of a bell ringing high above. Behind them the gate closed again like jaws, sealing vantage against pursuit. Ned caught the Blackfish's eye. Brynden dipped his head, the brief gesture of a man finally exhaling a breath held for too many miles. But his reprieve lasted only moments, for the barge banked to starboard toward a riverside dock where a knot of red and blue cloaks waited beneath drooping banners. Riverrun's outer cordoned at. Among the cloaks stood Edmure Tully, cheeks ruddy despite sleepless nights, fists resting on a belt that carried little more than a dagger, symbolism. Ned realized the heir of Riverrun would greet friend or foe alike with honor but not intimidation. The barge ground into mud. Crew leapt to tie rope. Ned disembarked first, boots sinking softly. Edmure strode forward, clasping his forearm. "Cousin," he said. The word felt fresh between them, as though tasting whether it rang truth. "All's ready. We have chambers aired." Healers gathered. "My father waits within." Where is Lord Hoster?" Ned asked. Edmure's gaze darted behind him. "In the solar. He's grown worse these past days. Gout, cough, weariness." He lowered his voice. "Hell be gladdened by victory, but Robert's death has struck deep. My father loved him." Ned bit back the bitter retort. That love for Robert might prove fatal in the world Tywin now shaped. Instead, he guided Edmure toward the gangway where Aaron descended. The men exchanged formal courtesies, words smothered by rowing coughs from the awning. At that, Edmure's resolve hardened. "Bring her," he ordered. "We have a litter, and the maester stands ready in the east tower." Caitlin emerged first, cloak thrown over her shoulders. She accepted Edmure's embrace, whispered something that tightened his jaw, then turned as two spearmen gently lifted Lyanna's pallet. Ned walked beside them as they crossed the dock to a covered cart lined with fresh furs. Every step Ned matched to her shallow breaths. He counted them as a miser counts coins, fearful each might be the last. Within the walls, Riverrun thrummed with pent-up urgency. Torches guttered along battlements, though sunrise glazed eastern sky. Courtyards bristled with armsmen drilling on muddy flagstones. The courtyard cistern overflowed from repeated bucket fillings in preparation for siege. Standard poles leaned ready by the main gate, some painted with trout, some with dire wolves, falcons, even a crowned stag still dripping new red paint where antlers had been blacked out. The sight twisted Ned's gut. He wondered how many men here felt afraid to wear the stag now that its master lay cold. The litter bore Lyanna up a broad spiral stair to a chamber fragrant with dried lavender and crushed mint. The warmth inside shocked Ned after days of damp. Maester Tywin, thin, earnest, with soft brown eyes, met them at the threshold, already rolling sleeves. "Set her here," he instructed, indicating a curtained bed whose linens bore the Tully sigil of river and trout. He knelt, fingers feather-light on Lyanna's wrist, then flicked his gaze to Ned. "She needs rest and cool compresses. The wound is healing, but fever lingers. I will prepare willow bark with honey to ease the chills. Let no more than 2 attend at once. The illness thrives on noise." "No noise," Ned promised. He sensed Caitlin beside him echo the vow with a nod. When the pallet was removed and the curtains drawn partially closed, Tywin ushered both from the bed's immediate circle. Caitlin tugged Ned's elbow, guiding him toward a small hearth where flames fought damp. She poured a cup of mulled wine from a waiting ewer, pressing it into his hand. "You look half frozen." "I cannot warm until she wakes," he replied, voice rough. He sipped out of duty, the spiced liquid scalding his throat, then handed the goblet back, almost startled to find his fingers shaking. Caitlin folded her hands. "I lost a brother once, only 5 summers, but fever took him. My father sat just as you stand. Sometimes love is the fiercest draught a healer can offer." She touched his sleeve. "You have that in abundance." Ned tried to muster a smile. It came faint, fragile. "You speak with a quiet strength I remember from your letters. Robert, he would have been fortunate indeed." Her cheeks pinked, yet sorrow dimmed the color. "Robert was a storm blowing through all our halls. We only ever glimpsed the calm at its eye, I fear." She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "But we stand now for more than memories. My father's solar awaits. Will you come?" Duty outweighed exhaustion. Ned bade Maester Tywin call him at the first shift in Lyanna's breathing, then followed Caitlin through corridors lined with rushes and flickering brass lamps. The castle smelled of damp stone, straw, and roasted barley from ovens already working to feed garrison and refugees alike. Guards saluted as they passed. Some northern men Ned recognized, one-handed Donald Risewell, young Lord Serwyn with bandaged brow. Others River Knights he'd only matched in letters or on the field. They greeted him with a gravity that weighed heavier than acclaim, the expectation of leadership. Hoster Tully's solar overlooked the tumblestone where 2 great rivers met, the windows thrown wide despite morning chill, so the sick man might breathe fresh air. Hoster sat propped in a carved chair, legs thick with bandages, wrapped in elk fur robes. His face looked carved of old driftwood. Deep lines, eyes watery but still sharp. Edmure and Lysa Arryn, Jon's wife, stood flanking him, Lysa's hand resting protectively on her father's shoulder. She had borne no child yet, and her eyes shone with the jealousy of hawks guarding scarce prey. Jon Arryn bowed to his father-in-law, but Hoster motioned irritably. No courtesies between kin. Sit. He pointed at chairs opposite. Ned took one. The Blackfish slid in beside him. Damp cloak hung to dry on a hook. Lysa peered at Ned as though measuring sin he might bring through the threshold. Your sister, Hoster rasped. In Vyman's care, Ned answered. Fevered, but alive. Thanks to the Seven. Hoster coughed, pain threading the sound. And thanks to you, Lord Stark. My debts to Winterfell deepen. Ah. We all owe the debt to Robert, Ned said. We can repay by ending what he began. Ending? Hoster's brow arched. Eris is dead. The House of the Dragon lies shattered, its last hatchling mewling on Dragonstone. The war is ended in name, yet the realm teeters. Who now sits the throne? A Lannister whelp with dragon's blood, or a fledgling Baratheon lord who cannot break a siege? Ned expected Jon Arryn to speak, yet Jon watched him instead, delegating judgment. A hush settled, broken by the far-off cry of gulls. Robert's cause cannot die with Robert, Ned began. He fought to end the reign of tyranny, to avenge the crimes done to our families. If we allow Tywin to claim the throne's children, we let Casterly Rock trade dragon wings for lion claws. One tyranny for another. If we back Stannis, we face Tyrell's strength at his throat. With half the realm weary of sieges and short of bread, we need unity, not fresh bleeding. The Storm's Lord would make a stern king, Edmure argued. Stannis honors oaths, but fosters little love, Arryn murmured. And love is coin kings spend often. Then what coin do we mint? Lysa snapped. My lord husband speaks of crowns as though they grow on orchard trees. Jon's mild eyes flicked to her, then back to Ned. Say your thought plain, son of Winterfell. Ned inhaled. We convene a great council. All great and minor houses gather to choose a monarch by ancient tradition. Let lords and small folk see that the rebels fought for peace, not power. The council could name Stannis, or Renly, or another with blood and worth. His gaze met Hoster's. But it will not name a Lannister so long as Tywin's hands drip wildfire. Nor a Targaryen so long as their name rings of madness. Choice must belong to the realm. Hoster drummed fingers on chair arm. Great councils breed years of debate. The realm aches now, bleeding. Tywin will not wait politely while we call banners to Harrenhal and tally voices. Nor will Winter, Ned replied. But a king crowned too swiftly may shatter quicker than ice on spring thaw. He rose, pacing to the open window. Mist parted over the confluence. Sunlight struck ripples where carp leapt. We send riders to Highgarden, Sunspear, Gulltown, White Harbor. We promise bread relief, tax remission, shipping protections. We speak of healing, not crowns. Tywin offers fear. We must offer mercy. Arryn's eyes shone with quiet pride. You have grown beyond the quiet boy who followed Robert's charge at Summerhall. Your father would approve. Ned's throat tightened at mention. I must earn that approval still. The Blackfish leaned forward, fingers laced. Words will not stop Tywin's next stride. Jaime yet sits the Kingsguard, but his father holds the city. They will call this rebellion ended. Cersei may declare her son, the babe Joffrey, heir by Targaryen queen's right, both lion and dragon, with Grand Maester Pycelle's seal, who challenges. Men shall him. Us, Ned said simply. And every house that will not kneel to killers. Bryndon's smile crooked. Killers have gold, and sellsword captains prefer clinking coin to northern honor. Lysa's voice sharpened. You would risk my son's birthright? Her hand flew to flat midriff, as if Joffrey's crown weighed there. Our family has poured blood into these causeways. We must claim victory, not barter. Ned faced her, calm. If your child is to know peace, the realm must know justice. Peace born of terror begets only greater terror. He turned to Hoster. Grant me leave to assemble envoys. Let Riverrun stand as cradle to council before Tywin's writ spreads. We can begin within a moon's turn if ravens fly swift. Hoster watched him long. At last he nodded. I forged my youth at War of the Ninepenny Kings. I know what follows wars ill-ended. Bandits in every glade, taxes that choke farmers. Write your summons. I will sign. Menem Nise. Relief loosened Ned's shoulders, yet weight returned instantly. Great council. A gamble upon the oaths of men he barely knew, and lords already weary of marching boots. But perhaps, just perhaps, it could break the wheel of vengeance before another generation fell beneath it. He bowed. I will draft letters at once. Caitlin escorted him from the solar, silent stretching. At corridor's midpoint, she halted, hand on his arm. You spoke with conviction few could deny. Yet the realm will demand more than conviction. Alliances, marriages, sureties. My father sees as well. Her cheeks flushed. If Lyanna recovers, if she chooses to wed, houses may bind. But should she not? Ned understood. In the same breath she offered the thread Robert once held. Marriage between House Stark and House Tully might still wed cause to alliance. He met her gaze. We fight first, heal, then plot what lives must share the future. For now, thank you for her care. Caitlyn's lips curved with that same stubborn hope, and she inclined her head. Ned returned to Lyanna's chamber. Slipping past Maester Vyman and the silent hovering of servants carrying bowls of lavender water. Inside the curtains shadows danced, cast by a single beeswax candle. Lyanna lay half-inclined on pillows, hair spread like ink across linen. Her eyes fluttered open at his step. Gray eyes, storm cloud and moonstone. Ned. She whispered. And though the word rasped weak, Ned heard the music of wolf calls at twilight. I am here, little sister. Her fingers twitched atop bed coverings. He grasped them gently. She searched his face, confusion flickering. The tower, it burned. Was that a dream? It burned, he admitted. But you are safe beyond its flames. Her lashes closed briefly. When they lifted, tears shimmered. Father, did you? Ice stabbed his chest. Not yet. But I will bring you to Winterfell when you are strong. We will kneel before the weirwood, as we did in summers past. A small smile. And Mother will scold that we tracked mud through the crypts. Ned swallowed. Mother will smile to hold you. She accepted the comfort, though both knew the lie. Yet sometimes, lies kept fever at bay. Lyanna shifted, winced. So much pain for one dance, she whispered. I dreamed of the tourney at Harrenhal. The blue rose crown. Foolish dreams. Dreams can guide us, Ned said. But waking tasks await. Rest now. She closed her eyes. Ned remained long after her breaths deepened, until Maester Vyman signaled time. Outside the chamber, he found Sir Howland waiting with a stack of small scrolls bound in reed twine. Ravens ready, Howland said. Couriers too. Your words? Ned accepted a quill, and sitting at a narrow table began to draft the summons. To the lords spiritual and temporal of the realm, to the wardens of each quarter, to all sworn knights and free cities. He balanced language between demand and plea, steering clear of names that might divide, yet every stroke of quill he felt the ghost of Robert's booming laugh, urging haste. He finished the first letter as horns blared from Riverrun's western wall. Not alarm, a herald's flourish. Footsteps pounded. Edmure burst into the corridor, panting. A messenger from Storm's End. Ned rose so fast the bench scraped stone. They followed Edmure to the gatehouse where a gaunt, salt-spattered man sat astride a lathered courser. The rider wore sigil of a pale swordfish. House Selmy's lesser branch, tattered by arrows. He bowed awkwardly. Lord Stannis breaks the siege, he croaked. voice cracked from shouting. Tyrell's fleet scattered by sudden storm. Red wine forces in disarray. Lord Stannis marches north with 2,000 promises, more from Massey's Hook. Cheers rose among the guards, but the rider raised a trembling hand for quiet. Yet, there is ill news. Lord Stannis' banner is black-barred. Confusion rippled. He rides under mourning for Lord Robert. He calls himself Lord of Storms and Defender of the Realm. He names Joffrey Waters, bastard of incest, and declares Renly likewise unfit, a green boy. Lord Stannis claims the Iron Throne. Silence fell heavy, broken only by the drip of river water from the rider's boots. Ned exhaled slowly. Every step toward peace seemed shadowed by fresh storms. Brynden arrived, blades of grass caught in mud-spattered boots. If Stannis stakes the crown, Tyrell pride will bristle. Lannister ambition already flames. The Riverlands risk becoming an anvil between hammers. Bang! Ned nodded. Then the council must convene sooner. He signaled the messenger. E8, rest. Then carry word back that Riverrun will host parley of lords willing to end bloodshed. Tell Stannis his claim shall be heard with all weight, if he marches not upon our walls before speech is spoken. The rider bowed again, half-dazed. That night, Ned lay on a pallet in the antechamber outside Lyanna's room. Cloak wrapped for blanket. Ice propped within arm's reach. Shadows of torches flickered across rafters. Sleep came only in broken snatches filled with visions. Robert striding across a meadow of rubies, crown sliding from cracked helm. Rickard Stark screaming as green fire consumed him. A lion cub gnawing at the foot of a great weirwood, until red sap bled. He woke near midnight to the padding of soft feet. Catelyn. She knelt at his side holding a steaming bowl. Honeyed milk. She murmured. You have eaten nothing since dawn. He sat up, accepting the bowl. The sweetness shocked his tongue, stirring hunger raw as winter wolves. He drank, and warmth spread into chest. Catelyn perched on her heels. Lyanna sleeps peacefully. Vyman says the fever breaks. Hope fluttered. You do not sleep. I could not, she admitted. Dreams of wildfire haunt even those who did not witness it. I smell smoke still. Her hands twisted. My father would have me wed a man of calm strength. Robert was a tempest, yet you... She bit her lip, staring at torch shadows. Ned lowered the bowl. I am ice, some say. Winter chill. Winter may chill, but it also preserves, she whispered. A flush colored her cheeks. She started to rise, but Ned caught her wrist gently. The silence between them seemed to hum with all the words unspoken since Harrenhal's tourney. Not tonight, he said softly. Too much weighs upon us both. Let us be comrades at watch, nothing more. Catelyn's shoulders relaxed. Then I will keep watch with you, Lord Stark. He smiled grimly. Call me Ned, if we share the same hearth. She settled beside him, back against the wall. Together they listened to the hush of distant water through sluice gates, the low hoot of night birds beyond arrow slits. Somewhere a watchman coughed. And in that fragile stillness, Ned felt, for the first time since Robert fell, that dawn might come without shattering. Dawn did come, gold and rose across cloud-scrubbed sky. Trumpets marked changing of the guard. Ned left Catelyn dozing and stepped onto the eastern parapet. From there he saw banners arriving on the southern road. Mallister purple eagles, bracken red stallions, piper dancing pink trumpets. The small folk along hedgerows waved, hearts lifted by promise of harvest saved from pillage. Ravens wheeled overhead, like scribes scratching lines of new history upon the firmament. Ned breathed deep. The air smelled of wet stone, wood smoke, and distant apple orchards. Autumn scent. Northern blood quickened at that smell. Time to store grain, mend walls, sharpen spears. Time to ready for the white world beyond. He heard steps behind. Howland Reed. Scouts from the Neck, Reed reported. Bolton banners march south under command of Roose. 6,000 foot. They speak of avenging Lord Rickard. Bolton blades cut both ways, Ned muttered. Yet we may need every sword. Reed offered a wry smile. And every dagger, my lord. I sent quiet men to shadow Bolton's camp. If Roose plots northern betrayal, we will scent it first. Nyanda. Ned clasped his shoulder. What would I do without you, Howland? Likely wander marshes until Bog devoured those fancy boots. Ned chuckled, a laugh too small but real. He peered south where plumes of dust marked more arrivals. Send greeting. Escort them in. We will hold first assembly before sun's descent. By noon, Riverrun's outer bailey thrummed like a beehive. Grooms led in destriers, slick with sweat. Cooks hauled haunches of venison onto spits. Scribes scurried with slates recording names and titles. Ned watched from a wooden platform erected near the Godswood Arch. Lords clustered according to feuds. Bracken opposite Blackwood across Muddy Yard. Vance and Piper exchanging stale jokes about hair and horns. Northmen standing slightly apart, eyes wary in unfamiliar climes. Yet beneath the surface Ned sensed something new, a collective fatigue at war's chaos, yearning for someone to claim burden. He signaled. A trio of horn calls cut the buzz. Voices hushed. Edmure Tully strode to dais, declaring assembly of lords under witness of gods. John Arryn followed, reading Robert's last testament, naming brother Ned Stark co-protector of realm until order restored. Whispers swelled, then muted under Blackfish's drill sergeant glower. Finally Ned stepped forward, cloak billowing in crisp wind. He addressed them without flourish, recounting in simple lines the fall of the Mad King, Robert's death, Tywin's questionable claim, Stannis' march. He spoke of burnt streets, of graves unmarked, of children torn from hearth to feed camps. He did not plead. He painted picture of realm's bleeding body and asked who would stitch rather than carve. He announced great council at Riverrun, date set 1 month hence to allow distant lords' arrival. He promised safe passage under truce for any house not sworn to open slaughter of innocents. He pledged grain ships from White Harbor and salt pans relief for war-starved towns. Finally, he laid before them the broken shards of a stag helm, brought from battlefield, set upon oak table, symbol of weight carried onward. Silence, then slow, deliberate clapping from Lord Jason Mallister. The sound spread, cautious yet steady, until even dour Titos Blackwood nodded. Not every face showed agreement. Jonas Bracken's smile looked thin as reeds, but the mood had shifted. Later that afternoon, ravens returned from White Harbor. Lord Wyman pledged fat stores and ships from Gulltown. Lady Anya Wainwood promised to weigh counsel from Sunspear. Prince Doran would send his sister Elias' children's fate to be considered. Whitey code for sitting out for now. Whitey code for sitting out for now. Uncertainty, yet not resistance. Lyanna woke fully 2 mornings later. Ned found her propped against pillows, a plate of oatcakes at hand, gray eyes clearer, though ringed purplish. She greeted him with weak but genuine grin. He sat, told her of rivers and councils and stag helms. She listened, nodding, then squeezed his hand. I remember fever dreams, she murmured. Dark halls, dragonfire. But I also dreamed of still lakes under snow. I want to see them again. You will, Ned vowed. She studied him. You carry weight thicker than Valerie steel. Will you bend beneath it? I will hold until realm stands straight again. Her gaze sharpened with the northern steel of their mother. Then bend with me, just this once. She pulled him into gentle embrace, forehead resting on his. Do not forget Ned the quiet boy. Kings and councils devour souls. He closed his eyes, inhaled scent of lavender and faint pine still clinging to her hair. I will remember. Outside the window flags cracked in brisk breeze, each snap like punctuation on words yet spoken. Ned rose after a while to let her rest. At threshold, she called softly. Tell Caitlin. I thank her. She keeps vigil when you cannot. He paused. I will. The months sped like ravens. Envoys streamed to Riverrun. Grafton galleys up the Trident. Frey barges stacked high with barrels of lamprey pies. Lancers from Crackclaw mounted on tough garrons. Ravens returned from King's Landing, those not shot down, bearing terse replies. Tywin Lannister refused counsel, citing infant King Joffrey's unassailable claim, Yet he offered safe conduct to any lord willing to affirm rightful succession in the capital, a thinly veiled bribe of gold and offices. Few accepted publicly, but Ned saw coins glint in many eyes. Stannis' banners approached from the south, halting to make camp at Maidenpool until the council's date. He sent a letter of grudging acceptance. If the realm questions my right, I shall answer with law and steel alike. Ned read it aloud to Arryn, who sighed that even the pen strokes looked angry. Bolton's host arrived, grime-cloaked, flayed man sigils half-concealed beneath spare tunics. Lord Roose in person knelt before Lyanna's porch, voice mild and flat, pledging to hunt Lannister lions with northern hounds. His eyes, pale as winter fog, betrayed nothing. Ned thanked him, yet stationed Reed's quiet men near Bolton quarters at all hours. As leaves turned brass and crimson, the council opened in Riverrun's great hall. A willow-carved dais curved around the weirwood throne once gifted to house Tully by river kings of old. Behind it hung banners of every attending lord, stitched hastily into a patchwork tapestry, symbol of intended unity. Ned stood flanked by Jon Arryn and Hoster, while Catelyn guided scribes along benches to record votes. Lyanna, still pale but resolute, watched from a balcony draped in furs. Her gaze never left Ned's broad back, as though ready to shield him with will alone. 3 days of addresses ensued. Stannis arrived in the hall on day 2, jaw clenched, wearing a simple breastplate and black cloak. He spoke of law, eldest Baratheon brother, rightful heir. He read from legal codices until murmurs rippled, yet his conviction shone like sharpened blade, and some nodded despite themselves. Renly arrived later with fewer men but brighter smiles. He wore a green cloak embroidered with golden roses, courted Tyrell favor. Though they remained at Highgarden uncertain, he spoke of love, of the people's cheers, of a young king's joyful reign free of iron severity. Applause bloomed, but equal snorts of derision rose from Northmen who mistrusted rose perfume amid ash. No Lannister envoy came, yet Sir Kevan sent a letter citing baby king's legitimacy DUI'd. Ned read it to the hall, presenting each claim calmly, letting others decide whether words penned by a lion tasted of stolen meat. Day 4, Ned took floor at Hoster's urging. He spoke not for crowns but for roads rebuilt, orphans' taxes lifted, hostages returned. He told of Robert's laughter and Rhaegar's quiet songs, of hopes crushed by iron spines of thrones. He asked them to choose a ruler who would kneel first to the realm before the realm knelt back. Silence followed, unmarred by cough or shuffle. Even cynics felt the hush. When voting began, tensions near shattered the hall's rafters. Northern lords backed Stannis, honoring law. River lords split, some wooed by Renly's charm, others by Ned's counsel of patience. The Vale held for Stannis out of loyalty to Arryn. The Reach absent save minor lords leaned Renly. Dorne abstained, citing scars of Ilias' death. Ironborn sent no word, their silence a dark tide. On 7th night, torches cast flickering vote tallies across walls. Stannis led by 11 voices. Renly trailed close. Whispers of neutrality grew. Yet outside walls, winter winds blew warnings. Scouts reported Lannister companies harrying villages near Hayford, burning those rumored to send riders to council. At night, riverbank bonfires glowed where refugees begged entry. Ned walked ramparts, sleepless, cloak snapping like sail. He feared council might birth only a weaker realm for lions to devour. It was Lyanna who offered the thread to tie frayed cloth. On the 9th morning, she requested audience with the assembled lords. Daemon protested, but her will proved firmer than bone. She entered hall leaning on Ned's arm, river of dark hair braided back, pale but eyes blazing northern winter. Murmurs surged, some shocked by her survival, some wary of Targaryen scandal whispered around her abduction. She stood before dais. Lords of Westeros, she began, voice clear yet soft. Men have died to seek kings on iron. I have almost died to free myself of crowns. I beg you, ask not who's right by blood, by parchment, by cheer of crowds. Ask whose mercy will heal burnt fields. If you crave strength, Choose the one who defends without pride. If you crave peace, choose the one who forgives without forgetting justice. Choose, but do not delay. Every sunrise sees more small folk coughing in ashes. I do not claim prophecy, yet I dream of north winds meeting Dornish sun on open fields without swords drawn. I dream of lion cubs taught kindness, not pillage. I dream of dragons' shadows passing harmless overhead, not bearing flame. Do not dash these dreams upon points of lineage. Crown who you must, but crown swiftly, crown wisely, and remember the realm watches. Damn, estu. She paused, turned to Ned with faint smile, then allowed Catelyn to guide her aside. The hall remained breathless. Even Stannis looked shaken. Renly struck silent. That evening, after long recessed whispers in side chambers, a compromise formed as quivering as spiderweb. Stannis would rule as protector of the realm until Joffrey's parentage could be adjudicated by septons and maesters. Renly would serve as hand, bridging hearts. The Great Council would reconvene next year in King's Landing to confirm monarchs once evidence and census of lords completed. Tywin's refusal to appear weighed as guilt. His armies must withdraw beyond Blackwater as sign of good faith. Until then, realm would be governed by triumvirate. Stannis, Renly, and Eddard, Stark as Lord Steward, tasked with pacifying regions. North, Vale, and River Lords accepted. Reach and Westerlands balked, but Doran's neutral blessing tipped scales. The vote passed at midnight, voice by weary voice. Triumvirate decree, sealed with 7 signets. Cheers lacked fervor, but they were cheers for breath spared. When dawn spilled rose across the confluence, Ned stood upon Riverrun's highest tower, watching banners unfurl below. Crowned stag in black mourning bar, golden rose twined with sword, gray direwolf rampant. 3 sigils where once dragons soared. Imperfect, but alive. Catelyn joined him, hair glinting copper. You saved them from choosing, but instead gave them duty, she said. We all share duty now. He turned to her. When the council reconvenes a year hence, the realm will need unity in more than parchment. If we might forge that unity through marriage. She placed fingers on his lips. Speak when winter snows fall and fields rest. For now, hold what peace we have earned. He nodded, silent gratitude filling chest. Below in courtyard, Lyanna stepped into pale sun, cloak swirling. She inhaled crisp air like wine. Ned watched tears crowd his lashes. The lions still roared beyond distant hills. The reach yet weighed its roses. The Ironborn sharpened axes upon their silence. Yet, salt and snow, trout and wolf, falcon and sword, these banners flew now side by side. Fragile braid binding a realm cracked but unbroken. Ned touched the pommel of ice, feeling its cool certainty. Winter would come, but when it did, perhaps it would find a realm that had finally learned to share its fire. And across the rivers, in a city still hissing with ash, green flames guttered beneath rubble, waiting to test that hard-won promise.